Good morning. Well, hello. How are you today?
Hi.
And how are you holding up? How are things going with you?
Oh, great. Can't complain. Super.
Excellent. Good. You know what? If we complain, nobody listens anyway, right?
Anyway, yeah, exactly. No. We've been sort of touring the world with
Yes.
the last film show, and it's been incredible from Saudi Arabia to Europe to Japan, and and it's been incredible. We've been following the theatrical release of the
Yeah.
film in several countries, and it feels great, especially in the post-pandemic or so-called post-pandemic era.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? Let's dive right in because what is so beautiful about this film is that it is universal. Pen, it is beautiful. There's nobody who cannot relate to this movie. And it is just beautifully shot, just the story. I didn't know I needed Kleenex. Thank you very much. All the good feels. But I want to ask you, let's go back to the origins because truly it has to be semi-autobiographical in some ways. Tell me a little bit about when you decided to kind of sit down, write this story, and then go back in your memories and share them with us.
Right. So I think when since I was a kid, I wanted to become a filmmaker. And once I started making movies, I never thought I would ever make a film which is even loosely based on my childhood, because it was everything I tried to run away from.
Yeah.
So anyway, but so happened that around about 11 or 12 years ago, I was visiting my father. They still live in the same region where you see the movie. This is where I grew up.
Yeah.
You see most of the locations where the film was shot. You also see my school. You also see some of the cinema hall. So when I was visiting him, he told me that I should go and see my childhood friend who used to be a projectionist, because he was going through very tough time. And I always known him to be very happy, singing song and cracking jokes. And so I saw him in the street selling, vegetable, very sad face. And we sort of both sat on the street and drinking chai. We started talking about what really happened. And he said, well, he never knew how to read or write, forget speaking English. And now the digital projection system has been installed in his cinema hall, and
Right.
he's been fired from his job, and he was the third generation.
Yeah.
So, and we started talking about, what happened to the projectors and the film reel turning into bangles. And the same next day, I was traveling back to the city to catch the flight, and I took a bus, and the bus had a sort of wedding party. A lot of
Mhm.
Indian wedding party means colors and bangles and bracelets, and and
Yeah.
and I had 3 hours to kill. So I was just thinking that maybe one of those women might be wearing some Indian superstar film role in her hand, or somebody's maybe has Martin Scorsese's movie or a Woody Allen. They wouldn't even know.
Yeah.
And it started like that crazy idea. And then over the years, I used to meet my friends and family, and they used to tell me anecdotes, family stories. Oh, no wonder you are a filmmaker. As a kid, you got us into trouble. You went to juvenile home for 5 nights, and you had
Wow.
stolen reels, and you did this, and you were swapping your lunchbox to friend the projectionist. And so I thought, especially as streamers were getting stronger in 2016 and 17,
Yeah.
streaming platforms, and cinema was already threatened. So this is when I started writing story loosely inspired from my life, as well as my friend who was a projectionist who had lost his job.
Right.
Because that was like so we sort of I decided to set the film in his lifetime, when in 2010, 11,
Yes.
when most of the Indian cinema hall, I believe across the world, they were going digital. There was a huge transformation happening. But in
Yeah.
a country like India, like in many countries in Africa, the change was felt by one class of people, which is the projectionist, because they
Right.
all lost job.
Yeah.
Earlier, the mechanical job. So in a way, I started writing, and I realized, okay, this is going to be a fun film to make, and this will be probably my first and last chance also to pay homage to filmmakers who has
Uh,
enriched my life. I mean, I've learned so much from many filmmakers. So all that started sort of coming together, and with my team, we went to the location where I grew up, and we collectively felt, oh, we have to shoot it here. We have to cast here. We have to, because this place is still unchanged. It is
Right.
changing very rapidly, but we would still have the train, the cinema hall, and the atmosphere. And so this is how
How it all got
last film
started.
was on. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah. No,
we literally finished filming, while the pandemic was attacking in 2020,
wow.
and so
You
the
know,
post-production went through the, yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and you were saying too, because as I'm watching, yes, you see this homage to all, oh, there's so many Indian films and all, your favorites. Do you recall, Pan, the first time when you sat in that cinema and you looked up at that screen and you're like, wow, do you
Oh
remember that?
yeah, I I remember very well, because first time when my parents took me to see a movie, I was too young, so I had no memory.
Sure.
But what I call first time was when I was around 8 or 9. That is the first time I went to cinema hall. We took 1.5 hour train ride, arrived, my mother had cooked a lot of food to eat in the hall.
Yes.
And it was very crowded. There were no one was queuing up for any tickets, and I was also surprised there was a blackmail, of the tickets. Like, you will have a guy who will come and whisper to you, okay, 20 for 10, 10 for 20,
Wow.
So 10
Yeah.
rupees tickets will go for 20 because it was sold out. So the moment I sat inside the cinema hall, as a kid, for me, it was one of the first rare such collective experience in a hall, where there are like 600 people. There were pigeons flying, and then curtains, thick dark curtains were drawn, and it all went dark. And the excitement I remember really well. And then they used to project slides before advertisement,
Yes.
so I was even curious
Yes.
about slides. And then came the newsreel in black and white, which it was obligatory by the Indian government. And then came the movie, and so by the time movie started, much more than the image on the screen, I was mesmerized, blown away by the shafts of light playing
Yes.
over my head.
Yes.
Because in those days, the smoking bidi, the Indian cigarette, was allowed in cinema hall.
Oh,
So
so you see,
you would
oh,
have those
wow.
lights, it looked like a discotheque.
Right, right. Oh my God.
So
Well, as we see in the film, like so many of these images that you
yeah,
experienced, we see, okay, we have to talk about casting because the young actor, well, the young boy, but Bhavin, who you've cast. I mean, come on. I know that you saw so many kids for this role, thousands, right? I don't know.
yeah,
And then he comes out of nowhere. He's not an actor. He's just a kid. He was amazing, amazing, amazing. I
yeah.
mean, how, did this not scare you to have like he's not had any experience? Like, how did that all come together?
So I think, as you know, we did 3,000 audition, and during the audition, twice we abandoned making this movie because there was, he has to carry the whole film,
Of course,
and most
every
of the
every frame, like he's in
every
every
frame.
scene. Yeah, yeah,
So obvious choice, logical, practical choice from producer is, oh, we have to find child who can act, who is a professional actor.
of
So we
course.
started there,
Yeah,
and that was a disaster because most of the Indian kids grow up watching Indian cinema, and their idea of acting is extremely over the top. They
right.
were totally not natural. They were influenced by TV reality show, TV
Yeah,
commercials. It was so depressing, and then we changed the strategy to look for non-actor.
yeah,
And that scared everyone around me. So like, how are you going to make this film? I said, look, anyway, I'm going to abandon making this movie. So why not take a shot?
yeah,
So, and earlier I had in my movies, in the Himalayas, we had used non-actor successfully. So we knew there could be a hope, there could be a spark. So together with my casting director, Dilip Shankar, and we had about 5, 6 assistants, and we started going to the villages where kids rarely go to see cinema,
right.
you know, and that's where we hit the jackpot, among the Rabari tribe, the camel herder, there was this kid going to school, living in a small village, and absolutely natural.
Yeah,
And I remember I only made extreme close up of his eyes,
yes,
excited, happy, sad. longing, only eyes, and about 30, 40 such shots. I put them together back to back, and we projected it at our production base. Me and my editor were there, and we literally had goosebumps. We said like, wow, look at those eyes. This guy, we have to push him. He can pull it. He could save us, and that's what he did. Bhavin managed to literally saved all of us and the movie.
Oh, just amazing. Was he as mischievous in real life as he was in the film?
Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, he was. What was great is because he grew up in a small countryside, he sort of was literally living our tagline, which
Right.
was, when you have nothing, nothing can stop you. He was like that, because he
Yeah.
said, oh, I've never had anything. So,
Yeah.
he would make things out of anything. He'll make up stories. He will repair bicycle. He will create cricket bats on his own. He will create. And once he discovered how the camera is working, he started making his own camera, like a pinhole cameras. And, he was just totally, absolutely amazing with the crew. And, he learned very fast all the technique, including how to project movies, how to control sound. In 2 days, he was running the cinema hall, the projector, the giant projector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And,
Amazing. Yeah.
and we literally had a scene, where the adult projectionist Fazal has to teach him
Right.
how to thread, and in fact, off the camera, it's somebody who was teaching him because he forgot how to do it, the adult actor, he was a professional actor, and he will tell him, no, no, sir, he's doing it wrong. It should go here, cut.
Fantastic. So yeah, that's amazing. I hope that we see him in more things, because honestly, he really, really just, this movie is beautiful, and because of him mainly, because he just carried it so beautifully. I want to ask you, just before we wrap, there's so much to talk about in this, but I at the end, you look at a father who takes his kid to a movie, it's a religious movie, whatever, but it obviously made such an impact on his life, and wanted to do film clearly with you. I'm wondering, once you made this film, once you decided to become a filmmaker, what did your dad say? Like, especially that you were even acknowledged to bring this to the Academy Awards, and, sadly it didn't get quite there, but for a filmmaker like you, and to bring this homage to, somebody who loves cinema so much, that must have been such an honor. So I was wondering what your parents thought.
Yeah, I think, it's been my parents, my family, the village, the whole region of Kathiawar has taken this story as like a big inspirational story that, oh, T. Seller's son can do it, we can all do it. So I feel really happy about it. But my father, very early on, when I left to study first in fine arts, and when I left village, he had always asked me one thing, that, are you, will you be happy if you make movies? So I had to lie and say, yes, I'll be happy, because I knew how tough it was.
Yes.
But he said, okay, if you are happy, I'll support you all the way, if it makes you happy, and that's what he did. He became totally the opposite, because he had no clue what is a filmmaking, who makes movies, what is a director, writer. He had no clue, and I didn't have any clue either. And all I knew was Indian popular cinema, Bollywood and all that. I had never even seen a Hollywood movie. I didn't even know there is a world cinema out there. There is old, rich culture, with movie. All that came much, much later into my life when I became kind of a self-filmmaker. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, you've done a beautiful job with this. I hope that we get to see lots more from you. I cannot wait. And I really appreciate your time today. Thank you so much. And best of luck with everything. Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Angie. Okay,
bye-bye. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, you
Take
too.
care.
Bye-bye. Thanks.